Hey everyone, my name is Rick Gualtieri, and this is Tales of a Midlist Author. Coming to you from, as usual, my home office here. I was debating, in between, I've seen some other, some other author vlogs, and they have almost like a nice clean setup behind them. Or they have their own studio, and I was like, well, I got a new mic. I was like, maybe I should do that. At the very least, it would fix the crappy lighting issue that I have here, but constantly having the futz on my windows. But then I was like, something? This is where I do my work. This is kind of where this is real. This is reality. This is not some fantasy I'm trying to hoist off on people. This is one of those things where I can record a video and then immediately get back to my work. Unless I change my mind. That's why I think we'll keep doing it from here, or until maybe when the holidays roll around and the Christmas packages start stacking up in here again, and all you see is presents in the background. Maybe we'll think of that. Anyway, that's just my editorial for this week. This week, what I wanted to talk to you about was something that I think is very important. For anybody going into this business, especially if you ever reach a point where you're doing it full time, and that's coping with the isolation or loneliness that comes with this job. Now, on the one hand, this job is awesome. I get to play in my imagination like it's my own personal sandbox. Write stories, sell them. It's great. The downside, though, is that if there's one thing I miss about being in a corporate environment, is just the general water cooler talk. It ranges from anywhere from there's been places where, let's be honest, I haven't really liked the people in it, and that's just banter, just to kill a little bit of time during the day. But then there's always been that concept of you have your work wife, work husband. There's that that person or people who you go to, and they're they're pretty much your go-to person to bitch to at work or complain or just talk to, and you're their go-to person. And if you're a writer, especially if you're a full-time writer, you probably lack that. That's something you lack. I mean, there are definitely exceptions. I know there are some writing couples out there. The couple of C.N. Crawford, they're a good example. By the way, buy their stuff. They're also really good authors. And I'm kind of jealous of that setup, because it's kind of okay, well, not only are you kind of doing a dream job, but you're doing a dream job with somebody else who's doing that dream job alongside you, so you can talk about it. I'm sure there are downsides. I'm sure there are points where where you start screaming at each other about plot points and stuff like that. So I'm not saying it's I'm not saying that is the ideal to go for, but I'm saying that probably is one area where the coping with the loneliness, I think you can kind of hopefully have a bit of an edge. But anyway, backing up from there, let's talk about what being a self-published author is, or just being an author in general. It doesn't have to be self-published. You're a business. You're a small business owner. And I think what a lot of small business owners tend to do, especially when they're starting out and they're starting to see that this is for real and they're putting real time into it, is they tend to go a little nuts and they forget about the concept of work-life balance. Now, what is work-life balance? Exactly what it sounds like. It basically means that every so often you have to unplug, live your life, go on vacation, take a weekend, do things. Whereas when you first kind of get into this, your mindset is, well, I'm never off. I'm on 24/7. Let me do nothing but write. And if I'm not writing, I'm making myself guilty. And I'll be perfectly honest, that is a really good way to burn yourself out or make yourself just hate this business. And I would say probably burnout is probably the greater fear. And burning out, let me tell you, I've been there. After my book Holier Than Thou, I couldn't write for 6 months because I just fizzled out. Before I found the motivation to to pick myself up again. It's not a fun thing. And I think part of that was I was just, even though I wasn't even full-time at that point, I was still part-time. I think I just pushed myself too hard, didn't give myself a break, and my brain eventually just fizzled. So work-life balance. Let me offer this advice. As I said, as a writer, especially full-time, but also can work part-time. Your business, every business has assets, and your best asset is yourself. And if you don't take care of that asset, you're not taking care of your business. So, to keep your business from suffering, you do need to take care of yourself, step away. And one of those aspects is the outlet of being able to find other people, talk to them, discuss everyday business. Even if it's like I said, sometimes it's just somebody you can complain to if you need to, or just like say, hey, what's going on during your day? In a corporate environment, or just really almost any job where you have to be there, you're going to have that because you're going to have your coworkers, and assuming you don't hate them and they don't hate you, they're going to be people you can go to and just kill a little bit of time during the day just to break it up. And that's really what it's just all about, that little mental break. And you really don't get that. I mean, here's the thing. I'm about as close to to being, to locking myself in here and going all Howard Hughes, as they come. Now, I'm more than happy doing the whole hermit thing, and even I need that outlet. So if you're a more social person than me, you definitely need it. Now, one could argue that, okay, well, fine. Well, I have my spouse here. Well, the truth of the matter is, I already mentioned if your spouse is a writer, that could be one thing. But if your spouse isn't a writer, it might be no different than going home to them and complaining about your job any other time, which is that they'll probably listen to a degree, but after a while they'll just be like, okay, I don't want to, I either don't want to talk about this or I don't understand what you're talking about. You can complain about what you're doing during the day as much as you want, but your coworkers are probably going to understand that a little bit better than somebody who's not there. And once again, I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to your spouse. Having a spouse at home can definitely go a long way because you have another adult there. I know I've heard things about romance writers where it's like, hey, I wrote my stuff, I got horny, and now I have somebody at home to have sex with. That is one benefit, but we're not really talking about that here right now. Basically, I think what it comes down to is a concept known as finding your tribe. And like I said, if you've had a job where you've had work friends, you already know what this is. This is finding people who kind of, I guess, have either similar goals, similar mindset, or similar business ethics to you, or maybe similar personality even. They're like-minded individuals. And the thing with having a tribe is there's that modicum of trust you build with them. Like, at any job, I kind of knew the people I could go to and I could complain about, our manager's a jerk. And there were people I knew I could complain about too who would be like, yeah, you're right, he is. And that would go no further than them. And I also knew the people who, if I said that to, it would be on the manager's desk, in an hour from now. So there's a modicum of trust that comes with finding your tribe. Us authors are no different. I would say I've been doing this for 7 years, roughly. And at this point, I would say, and it's taken me a while, and this is, I would say, fairly recent, maybe within the last 3 or 4 years. For those first couple of years, it was just kind of floating around. But I kind of have, I would say, 2, maybe 3 tribes, which is awesome. First one I would say is my podcast group, Authors and Dragons. They are awesome. Imagine meeting a bunch of people who you just had that same asshole sense of humor as you. They had that same just love of doing a good job, I'm probably insulting us all by saying this, but it's a really awesome group of professionals who know how to have fun. I also have a group of authors that I'm in a Facebook group with. There's Authors and Dragons A and D. The other group is AC. I guess I need an AE, AF, or AB, or whatever group. But anyway, this other group, in similar, it's like we're all authors. We're across multiple genres, but all of us have a similar work ethic, I would say, in that we're all trying to put out a good product, do the best we can, and just grow our fan base in in a natural way. Not trying to cut corners, not doing anything, trying to work ourselves in a professional manner. There's similar senses of humor there, which is awesome, but we kind of all get along with regards to that, and that makes them a tribe. And the cool thing about an online tribe is that, especially if you have people in multiple different time zones, is that's kind of like that nice thing of like, that's the benefit of an online tribe versus an offline tribe. Say like, the people at your water cooler, at your job, you got to wait till you get there to your job. If I'm having a crisis 24/7, I can probably go online and find somebody from one of those things who's awake, and they could either like, listen or just tell me, stop being stupid, dude. You're being a dipshit. But that's kind of an awesome thing. Other examples of quote unquote online tribes is, just individuals like outside. And that's why I mentioned like two, maybe two and a half or three. There's individual authors out there who I'm close with, who at any given time I feel that I can DM them, DM, direct message them with a question. I think they feel that they can do the same thing to me. And if we're not online, we'll get to each other. But usually if we see that, we'll jump online and answer something, or just talk for a bit. Similar, Skype is another thing. And Skype is cool because sometimes you can take away, that brings you a little bit closer to being in person. Because typing away is not a bad thing, but sometimes it really doesn't like take the place of actually talking to somebody. And if you can't just talk to somebody face to face, Skype is probably the next best thing. So that's another thing, with like, with quote unquote having a tribe, is somebody who can just say, hey, you mind if we get on Skype for a while? Let's just talk for a bit. Let's just chill, catch up a bit. And hey, maybe I'll tell you what's going on with me. You tell me what's going on with you. That's one way to help erase that loneliness. I would say it's probably not as good as having somebody in person. Having somebody in person you can talk to, there's just that, like, that extra mile that even like a camera can't erase. But having online, it's a way to erase that. And like, it kind of like, it staves it off. Like just having somebody I know I can go onto like a Facebook chat with and just like, and just do something with, it kind of can go a long way towards keeping me sane. So online, you can find your tribe in various ways. Like I said, social media, that's one thing. Being in a podcast, being in a private group, people you can just feel free to DM, so it's just between you. Typically it's people you're going to talk to in at least a semi-private manner. Skype is another thing. And you want to find, like I said, people that have similar mindsets to you, similar personalities, similar ethics is always a good thing, and make it work. So that's online. Offline, because we all need to occasionally open up our doors and step out of our houses. Like I said, even nutbags like me, there's other ways to go about that. Less frequent, unless you're one of those authors who does a con every weekend or so. Less frequent would be conventions. That's usually kind of a nice way to just see people in person, and usually you can get like a little bit of downtime in private where you can just like hang out with like your friends if they're there. Scheduled meetups. I know some authors where, hey, if they're like, if I'm ever going up to Boston, I think there's at least like 4 or 5 people that like, I could be like, hey, I probably couldn't go up there for just a day. I'd probably have to make a whole week of it. We'd be like, hey, let's hang out for a while. And if any of them are over in the New Jersey area, like, and they say, hey, Rick, you going to be around? It's like, hey, that's great. Let's grab coffee. Let's BS for a while. I've done that a few times, and it's pretty awesome. Because also, here's the thing. It allows you to meet those people that you only know online, meet them face to face. And usually, if you know them pretty well online, their in-person persona just reinforces that, and you realize that they're a cool person. But it can also go the opposite way, where you're like, hey, I've been talking to you online and I just met you in person, and I'm getting bad vibes, so maybe I'm going to pull back and realize you're not in my tribe after all. Hey, either way. But meetups are one. Local author groups. I know there's one that I'm a member of. I need to get to them a lot more than I do. They're up in Bergen County, sci-fi group. And I mean, the only downside there is that that's like an hour drive from me, and it's on they usually meet on Saturdays, and it's usually okay, drive up on roads that I don't like for an hour to meet up, and it's a Saturday, so usually something's going on. But find a local author group. Local author groups can be pretty diverse. And I know sometimes, I've known people who have been in several, and they just have never found people that they've meshed with. But you might get lucky, and there's a way to meet up with other people who are in this business at varying levels and talk shop, because sometimes you just need to do that. Get it out there. And if those people aren't really meshing with you, well, then just don't go back. But that is another thing to look into, and you can Google that. I mean, almost every town is going to have some kind of author group. Every state is going to have an author group, and just find which ones are close to you, see if they're open to new members, and hey, just show up, take a chance. Worst case scenario, you don't like it, you don't go back. There's other ways to be around people during the day. And I would say this steps back a little bit from tribe, but this is just kind of like a way to break it up so you're out there, maybe not going crazy in your home. If you can afford it, a shared office space. This is where you rent out space in a corporate building, usually on a floor that's maybe shared with other people. Maybe there's like a law firm there. Maybe there's other things. Maybe it's an open floor plan and you just have a desk. But a shared office space can be a place. And this might be a place where you're not looking to necessarily connect with people. You just want to be around people. But people who are working, so they're not necessarily bugging you or so. If you want to step back from that, you could just what is the one thing that you hear of of people who are working on their manuscript or their upcoming masterpiece do they spend all day at Panera or Starbucks. I'm not a fan of that. I've tried. I think I've tried that maybe once, and I feel like kind of a leech. Even if I'm ordering coffee or or paninis every half hour on the dot, I still feel like I'm just sitting there just being just loitering. I don't know. It's just, I think it's I'm not saying you are if you do that. I'm just saying personally I'm not comfortable with that. It's just, I don't know, it's not my thing. The upside though is, well, you don't go hungry in those places. I prefer, if I were going to do that, to do a library, because you can just walk in there. There's no expectation. I can just plug in, use their Wi-Fi, use their computer if I need to, probably use their electricity, find a plug, and just get my work done. It's a quiet environment, but there are people around. So it is a way to kind of just mix up your day. There are all sorts of ways to do that. So it really comes down to, you kind of need to reach out a little bit to stave off that. Whereas in an office environment, if you have a job, chances are it will develop naturally over time, where you'll meet at least a few people who you who you just get along with, and kind of fall into that tribe mentality. As an author, you kind of have to work for it, and I very much recommend you do work for it, because again, you're a business. You're also your business's best asset, and if you don't take care of yourself, that business suffers. And even outside of that, the business suffering, you suffer. It's amazing. Like I said, sometimes just having a place where you can just go, whether it's online or offline, where you can step away from the work, but maybe discuss work, that can go a long way towards keeping you keeping you in a sane mindset where you just don't lose it. And if that's not helping, once again, find people who who are close enough where you can either Skype with them, because that can go a long way, or you can meet with them in person, because no person is an island, and as much as we want to believe it, and you do need to take care of yourself, and part of that is that mental well-being. And let's also face facts: getting out into the world, it's inspiring. It it helps feed it helps feed the story beast. So that's not a bad thing either. All right, I think I've beaten that horse to death. My name is Rick Gualtieri. This is Tales of a Midlist Author, and I will be back soon. So far, this weekly schedule is working out well. Trying to stick to a schedule of releasing on Sundays. So for the foreseeable future, I think we're good to go. I think I have at least 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time scheduled. So I'm going to try to keep that going. And we'll see where we net out. If I reach that point where I've run out of things to talk about, well, that's I guess that's not such a bad thing. But I think we'll be going for a while yet. Anyway, hope to talk to you again soon.